I always got more publicity than other people, and it wasn't like I was trying. In fact, I don't know exactly why. Maybe you can tell me why.
Oh, I could definitely tell you. You said a lot of wild shit.
Trump being on Joe Rogan has officially broke the internet, and I'll tell you what I think is the most important part of the podcast coming up. Welcome back to the JP Rex channel, my beautiful, freedom-loving friend. This is where we like to call out the lies, hypocrisy, and corruption of tyrants and Satan, shine the light of awareness on woke absurdities, and highlight the amazing work of other freedom fighters. Both Joe Rogan and Donald Trump are freedom fighters. You combine them, you get freedom squared. I'm here for it. So, last Friday night, Joe Rogan dropped the episode with President Trump on it. And take a look at this. After less than 3 full days of being published, this is YouTube alone. Remember, Spotify is a big platform for Joe Rogan, let alone the other podcast platforms that he's now on, because he's not exclusive with Spotify anymore. Just less than 3 days alone, the podcast already has 33 million views, making it Joe Rogan's 4th biggest podcast of all time, which it's, the number 2 and 3 is 4 years old with 34 million views, 5 years old with 38 million views. So obviously Trump on Rogan is going to eclipse those into the number 2 spot, probably by the end of today as of this recording. And then Rogan's all-time biggest podcast with Bob Lazar and Jeremy Corbell talking about aliens, Area 51. I listened to it. That has 61 million views. And I would guess that President Trump's podcast with Rogan is going to eclipse that in short order. So long story short, why those numbers matter. This podcast was huge. It was 3 hours long. Not many people have listened to President Trump speak for 3 hours in a row. Now, he was preaching to the choir for a lot of us. I think the podcast was well worth listening to. So he's preaching to the choir, but I really appreciated learning more about President Trump's thoughts. And I came away from the podcast saying, he is more intelligent than I thought he was. I thought he was highly intelligent. But you listen to how informed he is, not only on issues going on, but then when he articulates solutions and plans. Kamala, you don't have any to those problems and those issues. It's just, it blew me away. I mean, he's talking about it takes 3.8 days for the polluted air in China to come to the U.S., or that's the tides. I forgot. I'm not even smart enough to know what he's talking about. He's talking with intricacies about the water problems in California. So by no means was this Trump going on and just bashing the left. I mean, he made some less than flattering remarks about Kamala, which I think all hold water. There was very little exaggeration or just bashing. It was just calling it like it is. How President Trump came across was with so much substance. Like if Kamala does word salad, Trump did word ribeye steak. It was loaded with substance. So while he was preaching to the choir, for a lot of us, why this excites me is there's going to be people on the left that this reaches who have never seen President Trump speak for more than a couple clipped minutes at a time. News clips that are edited to make Trump look bad, or he's doing an interview with a hostile reporter, short form. Some of those people are going to see this. And over the past couple years, certainly since COVID, there have been so many people leaving the Democrat Party and becoming Republicans. For anyone in that situation, we all have a straw that eventually breaks the Democratic camel's back and they become a conservative. For some people out there, right before the election, this is going to be the straw that breaks their back. So I do believe this is the single most powerful piece of media that President Trump has ever done. With that said, let's take a quick look at some of the highlights from the podcast. This one, as soon as President Trump said it, I'm like, oh, the left's going to take that out of context, and they have. Here it is.
Some of these women, they're so stupid.
One more time.
Some of these women, they're so stupid.
And the left says, ooh, we can take that very out of context clip of him talking about the women on The View, the hosts of The View, who are objectively stupid. We can take that out of context and try to make people think he's talking about women in general. Well, you lying, deceitful bastards. People are waking up to your shenanigans. Maybe my single favorite part of the podcast. Now, the whole thing was great. I think the 3-hour podcast on the whole body of it, that's my favorite. It is so good. Probably my single favorite part was when Rogan starts asking Trump about the JFK files. What's in that? What can you tell us? You didn't release them before. Are you going to release them again? We'll see that in a minute. But first, Rogan, I was wondering, because for many years, Rogan was saying, I'll never have Trump on. So I'd been wondering, well, you had Trump on. What changed your mind? Here it is.
I was.
He was a nice
once
guy.
they shot you, I was like, he's got to come in here. It's all about timing. It's all about the timing.
Timing's
I think
good.
our timing's perfect. Do you even have a scar on your ear? You got anything on there?
I do.
I thought that was interesting. That was, when he got shot, that was the straw that broke Joe's back as far as changing his mind. Like, yeah, I got to have him on. Like, that was incredible. This is an even more historical figure now. Sorry, Deep State, you missed, you dumbasses. We'll get back to this in just a second, but first, I have an admission to make. Even though we all know we spend a third of our lives asleep, so the quality of our mattress that we sleep on helps dictate the quality of our sleep and therefore the quality of our health and our lives. Up until recently, I was always sleeping on low quality mattresses. Just whatever was the quickest and the cheapest. But recently, I made the switch to a mattress that actually supports my body so I can get optimal sleep, and it's been a game changer, so I want to tell you about Mattress Lux. Mattress Lux is a local family-owned mattress store specializing in sleep solutions, and they genuinely want to serve their community. They don't just say, here's a mattress that we sell, so it's right for you. They specialize in helping you find the right mattress for your unique sleep needs. They proudly carry premium organic options like Avocado and Naturepedic, as well as other popular brands like Tempur-Pedic, Helix, Puffy, and Casper. I now have the Avocado mattress, and that has been a game changer to me. I'm getting the best quality sleep of my life. And I also love the fact that the Avocado mattress is all organic, because we're living in a time where we're not just realizing that what we put into our body can be toxic, but also the air we breathe coming from the products around us and the things we touch can have a toxic impact. So my Avocado mattress not only gives me great sleep, it also gives me peace of mind. Mattress Lux believes that sleep wellness begins with education. That's why they developed the LuxFit process, which guides you through the steps of choosing the best mattress for your specific needs. And this process isn't just available at their in-person store in Georgia, it's also available via phone consultations and web chat. So no matter where you are in the US, they can ship your perfect mattress nationwide. So if you're like me and you're ready to stop holding out on the best sleep of your life, go to mattresslux.com. And for 10% off, use code JP10 at checkout. Plus you get free shipping. Or give them a call at 470-240-9185 and mention code JP10 for your discount. Thank you, mattresslux.com. Y'all are amazing. Now, you may have seen a clip of President Trump talking about Kamala being low IQ. Fact check, true. Let's take a look.
And there's the rhetoric is also that you're Hitler, and that
that's
in order
another-
to stop Hitler, you have to do whatever it takes.
That was okay, yeah.
Yeah, and this is, I mean, you're hearing this now. Kamala compared you to, said your love of Hitler yesterday.
Kamala's a very low IQ person. She's a very low IQ. I'm for taking tests too. I think anybody that runs for president they should give them tests. And it's not an age thing. It's not based. If you look back on history, 70s and 80s, some of your greatest leaders in the world history, long-time world history, they were in their 70s and their 80s. But I think you should take cognitive tests. I think they say it's unconstitutional. But
That's ridiculous.
I think Kamala should have a test because there's something missing. There's something wrong with her.
Now, the only thing I disagree with President Trump on there is he said with Kamala, there's something wrong with her. I disagree. I don't think there's something wrong with her. I think there's many things wrong with her. But nonetheless, I found this clip interesting. It's a short clip on primarily coming from Joe Rogan, his perspective on how Republicans are now the rebels. If you remember back in the 90s, it was the Democrats that were the rebels. The pendulum has swung. Now we're getting more and more high school age people, especially high school age men, realizing I don't want anyone to control me. You want me to conform to the system? You want me to conform medically? You want me to conform and think what the media tells me? I can see that's not true. You want me to conform to that? I'm going to rebel against the corrupt system. And when you do that, whether you declare yourself a conservative, a Republican or not, you are.
The rebels are Republicans now. They're like, you want to be a rebel, you want to be punk rock, you want to buck the system, you're a conservative now. That's how crazy. And then the liberals are now pro silencing criticism. They're pro censorship online. They're talking about regulating free speech and they're regulating the First Amendment. It's bananas to watch.
Joe, they come after their political opponent.
Well, they do.
Got more guys. I always say, I kid, but I'm not kidding. I've been investigated more than Alphonse Capone. He was the meanest of them all. He'd kill you in 2 seconds if he didn't like you, right? I've been under investigation more than Alphonse Capone, only because it's political opponent stuff. And I've won. I won the big case in Florida. I'm winning the other stuff. You win. But you know what they did? They did something that's only done in third world countries. They came after their political opponent.
Yes.
I could have put crooked Hillary in jail.
Well, not only that, but they're weaponizing it.
And during the podcast, near this conversation, you just heard President Trump say, I could have put crooked Hillary in jail. And I believe that to be true. Yet, what you'll hear President Trump say, he comes across with so much dignity. He said, I didn't put crooked Hillary in jail, when Trump got elected in 2016, because he said, I think it would have been bad for America. Having a president's wife, President Clinton, he used to be in office, believe it or not. Now he's just in Epstein's Island. But having a president's wife go to jail, and yeah, that's one side persecuting the other side, albeit in this case, it likely would have been in a very just way. But President Trump even looked at that, and here's his dignity. He says, I think that would have been bad for America. Left, maybe quit doing the opposite of that. Well, he committed no crimes, so we will politically persecute him. Got a 2024 election coming up that we don't know how to win fairly. Left, you also need to know you don't know how to win it even when you cheat. Now, last clip from the podcast. It was near the end of the podcast. Rogan, this is such a unique format. Rogan is such a unique person interviewing President Trump. I knew we'd be in for this, and he delivered. Rogan asked Trump untraditional questions at times, things that you and I are probably curious about. And one of them was the JFK files. Hey, they were supposed to be released. And last time you got in office, you said you were going to release them and you didn't. Why is that? And will you release them this time? Spoiler alert, Trump said he will release the JFK files. He gives his reason. It's a good reason, even though you might not like the fact that Trump changed his mind once he got in office for not releasing the JFK files. So Trump said, yeah, we had a good reason not to. Here it is. You'll hear that in a second. But he said, now it's time. So personally, I believe when elected, President Trump will be releasing the JFK files. I can't wait. Here's that clip of the conversation.
The JFK files. One of the things that you said was that if they showed you what they showed me, this was your quote, you wouldn't want people to know it either.
So I opened them up partially. I was met from good people. Good people. People that were well-meaning. Mike Pompeo was one of them. He's a good person. They called me. They said, sir, would rather have you not. And I did open them, but I was asked by some people not to open them. There's a Martin Luther King file, too, by the way, that they'd like to see. I don't know if you know, but there is that. But JFK in particular, they called me. A lot of good people called me. People that that you would find reasonable people. And they asked me not to do it. So I said, well, we'll close it for another time. But if I win, I'm going to open them up. I'm just going to open enough.
Why didn't you open it up the first time?
Because a lot of times,
what was the hesitation, though?
Addresses, people that are still living. There are people that are affected.
So that's interesting. Looking at some of the people in the JFK files doesn't mean these people are necessarily criminals and guilty, though maybe they are, but it just means they're in the JFK files. They're still living. President Trump says, yeah, their lives would be affected by this. Now, if they would be affected by that in the sense of justice, I'm all for it. Like, if someone's guilty, it doesn't matter. You don't get amnesty, okay? President JFK was shot and killed. So, but giving the benefit of the doubt here, it's potentially people that don't need justice thrown their way and their lives would have been negatively affected. So I get that, even though I still think the right thing to do would have been to release the JFK files back in 2016 when I got in office.
It could be some national security reason that that I don't have to necessarily know about, but some very good, talented people asked me not to do it. I opened it up and then they said, would it be possible for us to do that a different day?
How much of it did you read into?
I think it's going to be just fine to open it. Let me put it that way. I think it's fine. It's going to be time. It's a cleansing. It's really a cleansing.
So if you want the JFK files released, there you have just one more reason to vote for President Trump. My freedom-loving friends, I can't recommend this podcast enough. I learned things about President Trump. I learned things about his love for America, how he talked about first going into the White House, how it was surreal for him. You hear his depth of knowledge from all things, whether it's energy, wars, de-escalating wars, what he would be doing to do these things. And he highlights what Biden and Harris have been doing wrong, why these wars keep happening. I found it incredibly informative, lots of substance. And again, if Kamala does word salad, President Trump does word ribeye steak. I was riveted. So if you haven't already, please consider listening to the full podcast with President Trump on all of Joe Rogan's podcast channels and his YouTube channel. With that said, my freedom-loving friend, let me know what your thoughts are on the President Trump podcast with Joe Rogan. Personally, I think it is the most monumental single piece of media that President Trump has ever done. And I will look forward to seeing you on our next video. But until then, stay mega.